Kia ora tātou, welcome back to the Wargaming Den. This week is game 11 of O Group and it's the second game in our Normandy campaign. The mission or scenario is Phase Line Cassino. Let's take a look. And once again this scenario is based on Operation Epsom, and the action this time takes place as the Scots try to reach this road line here, which was given the code name Cassino. So it is elements of the 46th Highland Brigade, and we're going to be using the Glasgow Highlanders, and they're going to be supported by elements of the Royal Armoured Corps from the 7th Royal Tank Regiment, as well as the Royal Artillery. So let's have a look a wee bit closer. So the first phase line is that road that we saw, the Fortenay-Carpiquet Road, which ran roughly east-west, and then from there they were going to advance onto the village of Cheux, not sure how to say that in French, apologies, and then consolidate and continue. And so the Highlanders were required to advance about 4,000 yards before they would reach phase line Cassino, and it wasn't until about 1 in the afternoon that they would siege the village, which was their final objective. Who is standing in their way? Right, let's have a look at the 2nd Battalion of the Glasgow Highlanders. Typical O Group battalion, we've got the HQ, Fort Observer, and the mortar support, which is off table. We've got 3 rifle companies, a support company with a Vickers medium machine gun and a Piat, and a carrier platoon as well. And their support is in the form of 2 Churchill troops, one of 75mm Churchills and the other are armed with 6-pounders. And Keith's defending with a worn Panzer Pioneer Battalion from the 12th Hitler Jugend SS Division, and it consists again of the off-board mortars, Fort Observer, and the Battalion HQ. Only 2 Panzer Pioneer companies. It's got a machine gun platoon with the 2 medium machine gun sections, anti-tank support platoon of 2 Panzerschreck sections, a Pack 40 which is going to be dug in, and he's got a hasty minefield, a minefield, and a sniper, and his reserves is a single Panzer Grenadier platoon. So on paper, once again, the Germans' defences are going to be stretched quite thinly. Not a lot of troops to defend against the attacking Scots. And let us have a look at the actual table. Again, Keith's done an outstanding job with this. We had 2 of us playing as the Scots this week. We had Craig and Craig. The other Craig joined us, so we kind of split our forces up. Craig took A company, which had the Churchills in support, and their plan was to just push through all these fields, which offered concealment for the infantry, get across here, and hopefully push forward into this orchard. I was supporting. We decided to basically just try and again play on half the table if we could, hoping that the Germans were going to be stretched wide, and my plan was to get my company just pushed up into this orchard. We thought that these were the most likely ambush points, so if we could secure these orchards, then I could offer covering fire and support potentially while Craig pushed forward. And we also had a flanking force coming on from reserve, which was our 3rd company, and they were going to come on from turn 3, 4 onwards, and that's when our boundaries were going to change so that they could advance up to the objective road here, and supported by Craig's other company, while my troops supported and maybe made a break down this road if that presented itself. The other option was to go this way, and afterwards Keith said how he was really hoping that we didn't go this way. This open area put me off, but as Keith pointed out afterwards, it meant that he really would have had no places of cover to deploy platoons of combat patrols or ambushes and things, so he was quite happy in the end that we decided to go this way into the more dense agricultural terrain on the side of the table. But this is the start line, about 8 inches in. As you can see, the maps look pretty similar. Keith's done a great job. German forward defence line just runs in front of the creek, and that's the German HQ, and he's got a couple of artillery strikes sitting back there as well. So let's move on, look at the game itself.
Deployment for the British: 2 units on table, 4 combat patrols, 3 don't count for anything because the Germans are worn, and on the German side 4 ones equal
3 turns of interdiction.
Okay, and what are those ones equal, Keith?
Combat patrols.
3 combat patrols and 2 units.
2 ambushes.
An ambush.
Apart from my 3 ambushes.
Oh, okay. So this is phase line Cassino. Take 1. Okay, the British combat patrol HQ, combat patrol HQ, platoon, Churchills starting on table, and from the Germans, they're all hidden. There's someone hiding back there trying to be a company commander. Combat patrol up here. Where's your other combat patrol? And over here in this area. And the British are taking the first turn. It's only right and proper, even though we're Scots, so apologies to Scottish people for calling you British. Orders for turn 1. The Scots get 3 battalion orders, 5 regular orders, 1 doesn't count, and those poor Germans are trying their best to throw the game already. 1 hesitant company and just 4 regular orders for them.
Be a good poker dice hand.
Yep, unfortunately we're not playing poker. Bugger.
We get
Turn 1, not a great deal of action. British are sneaking forward with combat patrols. They did, the Germans dropped a mortar barrage onto this platoon, and they suppressed the forward observer. But the British mortars killed a combat patrol over here, so just a bit of minor skirmishing with our mortars as we head into turn 2. 7 regular orders for the British, and the Germans get 1 battalion order and 7 regular orders as well. So we head into turn 2. Okay, the British, the Churchills, have advanced, and I deployed a platoon in this orchard. The German ambush was sprung and put 2 suppression shock on me, and then Craig opened up with our Churchills, and they put 1 shock, but then they fired again, put a 2nd shock. I have deployed a platoon nearby to try and go through there to support, but over back here a Pack 40 in a bunker ambush was sprung, and it has put 2 shock on this Sherman, and a nasty little sniper added another shock, so one of the Churchills is completely suppressed. So on to the Germans' turn 2.
And so this is a good overview here. So my platoon advanced, there's the German ambush from there. Another platoon is advancing to offer covering fire. That's a combat patrol, company commander, that's a German combat patrol there, and that's where Craig has been pushing forward in his turn as well. So making a wee bit of forward progress, but we want to capture this orchard as quickly as we can.
End of turn 2. The Pack 40 fired twice at the Churchill. It fired and then used 3 company orders to fire again. Rolled 6 to hit both times, needing 7. So we were lucky there. And interdiction prevented some combat patrols from deploying troops. So interesting turn 2. As we head towards turn 3, we've got 4 battalion orders, but the Germans have only got 2 currently. So let's see what happens on turn 3. Turn 3, British 6 regular and 1 battalion order puts us up to 5, and the Germans get 6 regular, 1 battalion puts them up to 3 battalion orders. Okay, do you two want to roll well, we'll roll dice, see who gets in. The odds we get an 8 is going to be a 13.
Fuels.
The British can have another order. Interesting turn from the Germans. Keith's favourite weapon of war has appeared. The medium machine gun fired twice and has now suppressed and actually killed a stand of that front company. So both of my platoons in this company are now suppressed. At the end of the turn, the other Craig deployed an infantry platoon forward over here. We're not calling them cannon fodder because the machine gun's nearby, and a platoon up there near where the new companies come on. So we've got to rearrange our boundaries. And Keith actually fired into this wood in his turn. He tried to get Hummels but got battalion mortars, and that helped with the suppression over there. So on to turn 4.
So there we have it. I thought I did a pretty good assault into here. Had the Panzer Pioneers suppressed, but Keith rolled over a 4+ and retreated out of range, curse him, and then got hit severely in here with the mortars and then the medium machine guns from here. And that's where Keith's just deployed, the other Craig's deployed on a combat patrol, still pushing forward this way. One thing Keith realised afterwards, for some reason we thought that superior guns had a longer range, but it turns out it's only a longer range when elevated. So the Pak 40's been firing from this bunker over here at just under 40-inch range, but actually should have been firing at 30 inches, and so that would have changed things, but that's something we've played all the way through. The other interesting thing with this scenario is all these hedges count as non-concealing terrain. They basically don't count for tanks, which I do have a bit of a problem with, because having just biked across Normandy last year, I was paying close attention to the hedges. I actually biked not round here. I biked from Caen down to Ouistreham and along the British beaches, and then we headed back inland to Bayeux, Villas, Bocage, and then we actually biked to Mont Saint Michel before we did the Camino. And all the way along, I was checking out, as a geographer and a wargamer, the hedges, and the hedges that around the fields, and they definitely would have been blocking or at least offering concealing terrain to any vehicles in fields when guns or tanks weren't right up against the hedge line, So, but that's just the way it is in this scenario, that they don't really count as any cover for armour at all. But so that meant that the Pak 40 here was hitting on 7s, but luckily Keith kept rolling 6s early on, which we were quite happy with. But let's move on to the next turn.
Turn 4, 2 battalion orders and 7 company orders from Craig. Keith, 4 battalion orders, puts him back up to 5. And just 3 company orders though. So who can roll better here, gentlemen? Yeah, Germans have let rip at my 2 platoons in here and killed 3 bases, but the 4th one, their morale broke and they ran off. So first foobar. So we've now taken 5 losses, mainly to these nasty little machine guns. It's now our turn to try and respond to that. I think I can hear some artillery in the distance. Oh, and also this platoon, they reacted, put a couple of suppression on, but then the return fire from the machine guns put them on fully suppressed again. So machine guns are causing havoc for the 2nd week in a row.
And then we'll do.
Okay, so the British turn was nothing to write home about. Our artillery did come in, and we've fully suppressed the machine guns at present. I sent some carriers forward, but Craig's sending some troops forward over this way. It's about where we're making our best progress at present, actually. But we seem to have stalled a wee bit, so we head towards turn 5.
And let's just have a bit of an overview before we move on. So the Churchills advanced here to try and put pressure on those machine guns. Second week in a row that the medium machine gun platoon has just caused carnage. We keep not spotting it, and so it saves on a 3+. And Keith is quite good at rolling 3+, we do get it suppressed a couple of times, but it's firing at least twice a turn, sometimes 3 times if it's using a reaction as well. So to try and deal with this, we've got the Churchill, we've got a platoon that we've placed here to try and shoot at it. I think those guys are out of range. I've actually deployed a medium machine gun platoon or section here to shoot at it as well, and I've deployed the carriers down here because Keith has placed off a combat patrol rather than an ambush. I think this is actually a minefield here, by the way, and so the 2 platoons in here got absolutely hammered. I think they've lost 5 stands. They lost 2, failed the morale test. Well, no, maybe passed the morale test, and then the other ones failed too, and ended up, ended up losing another stand. So suddenly the wheels have fallen off in this orchard, and these machine guns are just covering the front quite nicely, and the Pack 40 is keeping our Churchills at bay as well. So we have stalled a bit. I think we have just deployed, though, we're about to deploy the reserve company in here, and now the company boundary has just changed, so it runs along there so that these guys have to move across a wee bit. But yes, we seem to have reached a bit of a high water mark and haven't even crossed the stream. Not good.
Turn 5. 1 battalion order puts us on 5. 7 regular orders. The Germans get 1 battalion order, puts them up to 2, and 6 regular orders. So see who gets initiative. Turn 5. We lost another platoon, so we're sitting on 10, but Craig is bringing it back. The Churchills reactified to that platoon and actually killed a stand. So the Germans have now lost 1. We may have lost 10, which means the odds are not looking good for us, but we will see. Our turn 5. End of turn 5. I machine gunned and put maybe a shock on there. Craig did well over here. There's lots of shock and suppression, but he actually killed a platoon of Germans. So we've now taken 3 casualties on them, but these guys have got 1 shock. He's just rallied 1 suppression off them. So we've made progress here, but we've only got 2 losses, and we lose the game. And the machine guns are no closer to being dead than they were a couple of turns ago. Turn 6, 7 orders rolled by the other Craig. Keith gets 3 battalion orders, puts them up to 4 as well, and 3 regular orders. So this could be the last turn if Keith kills 2 of our stands. This turn we lost the Vickers. I did the perfect carrier assault, but had no company command order to follow it up with, unfortunately. Craig has been rolling lots of saves over here. Those machine guns, they just won't die. It's just crazy, and Craig failed to rally over here at the end of the turn, and Keith has things well and truly under control. He's been rallying these guys back here, those little dodgy ones there, and they're in trouble, but not if he wins the initiative. Seven company orders for the Scots, 2 battalion orders puts Keith back to 2, and 5 regular orders. So it's a tie, and the Pack 40 finishes it by killing a Churchill, and another comprehensive victory to the Germans, 12-3. We have yet to cause a foobar on the Germans in this campaign.
Right, so let's have a look. Where did it all go horribly wrong? We were a bit unlucky, I thought, really. Those medium machine guns, once again, just wouldn't die. And being able to fire 3 times a turn, if they can, really is good, because they can fire, they can use a company order to fire again, and they can also use a reaction to fire a third time. So the fact that we weren't able to deal with them really hindered our attack, and we ground to a halt as a result. The Pack 40, we've all thought that they had a 40-inch range, but it's only 40-inch for superior guns apparently when they're on elevated ground. So actually the Pack 40s probably would have had to have deployed a wee bit closer, as it turned out, but that's just neither here nor there. We played it the way we played it. Perhaps if we had pushed up this way and used those tree lines to screen, we might have had a bit more cover against the pack. Or maybe I should have pushed my company out wide and really stretched the German defences. But we're trying, the plan was to try and keep our forces close to support each other. I didn't want to actually go past, I think as I said earlier, this orchard here. I just wanted to get my platoons up here and being able to offer covering fire and let Craig kind of make that end run with the other two companies ideally. But we got a bit bogged up in the terrain and things, but all credit to Keith. He played a good defence. There wasn't a great number of Germans on the table when you look at it. There was only 7 platoons to defend against this, as well as the medium machine guns and some anti-tank. So it was not an easy table to defend on, and I think if we played this scenario again, potentially it would have a very different outcome. But yeah, really enjoying the scenario so far. Next week's game is a German counterattack, so it'll be interesting to see how well Keith does on the attack. But at present, the Germans are up 6-0 in the campaign stake, so we're going to have to pull something back next time, hopefully. But thanks very much for watching. That's all we've got time for today. Until next time, ka kite anō. Take care.